everyone. Let me make sure my mic is going and everything looks like everything's working. So, yay. Let me just check and like I said, let me make sure that we got everything going here. I'll check on my phone because that seems to be the easiest sometimes. Yeah, that looks like we're good, huh? Obviously, things must be working. Awesome. Hi, everybody. Super cool. All right. We'll just do a little bit of kind of housekeeping. So this is streaming through hopefully both my Facebook and my YouTube channel. So I can see comments through this software from both Facebook and YouTube, but there's probably a delay if I remember correctly. So when you ask questions, there might be a little bit of a delay. Anyway, it should be streaming through both, and this is going to be recorded. So if you can't make the whole thing or you miss pieces of it or whatever, it will be recorded and on my YouTube channel as well as on the Facebook page. So we should be covered. We should be covered everywhere. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So this lecture, live stream, kind of however you want to look at it, we are going to be talking, or I'm going to be talking about why I don't teach distance and what my steps are on how I do get distance without quote unquote teaching it. I have some video clips that we'll look over, and I'll do hopefully a little bit of screen share to kind of show a couple of diagrams and all that sort of good stuff, so you guys can kind of see what we're talking about or what I'm talking about with demos and all that sort of good stuff. Along the way, if you guys have any questions or something's not working or whatever, just type in, whether you are on Facebook or whether on your YouTube, type into that comment or chat box basically, and go ahead and ask your question. And like I said, there's probably a bit of a delay. So if I don't see it right away, that is probably the reason. But I'm already seeing people commenting on here from both Facebook and YouTube, so I think we're good to go. All right, so we'll just go ahead and get right into it. So distance. My philosophy with distance work and why I say I don't teach it or I don't train it is that I fully believe that distance work and distance skills, and when I talk about distance skills, I'm talking about space between you and your dog when you're running agility, right? So when you are doing any sort of distance class, gamblers, chances, jackpot, anything like that, where your dog is required to move away from you or you move away from your dog and there is distance between the two of you, whether that is 5 feet or 50 feet. It does not matter the amount of distance. How I work with my dog to achieve that distance is the same process, whether I'm looking for 5 feet or whether I'm looking for 50 feet. It's going to be the same process. So I firmly believe that distance comes from your dog having confidence in the skills that they are taught. So what I mean by that is if your dog has confidence and they fully understand how to do that pinwheel, how to do those weave pulls, what their criteria is for contacts. When they have confidence in that, when they are fluent in that skill or that behavior, you will start to test that skill or test that behavior by adding distance. You test it with other things as well, such as adding difficulty, discriminations, etc. But one of the methods of proofing that is by adding distance, right? So if your dog does not have full confidence in what they are being asked to do, and then you try to test it by adding distance, or you try to proof that skill by adding distance to it, but they don't have confidence, then they can't have the distance. Okay. So that is kind of the core of my philosophy, of my thoughts when it comes to distance training, and why I firmly believe that distance is not a skill that you teach. In my opinion, distance is not something that I go out into my yard and I set this specific exercise, and today I am teaching my dog distance. Today I am teaching my dog how to, do 3 jumps straight away from me, or I'm teaching my dog to go 50 feet away from me. There is not a specific exercise. There is not a specific training plan of, all right, my dog is ready to start doing distance, so I am now going to do distance. I am now setting this exercise and I'm going by this training plan, and I am now going to achieve this distance skill or this level of distance or whatever it is. Distance comes from your dog understanding what they are being asked, because it is a method of proofing what you have already taught your dog. So, as an example, if I am teaching my dog, we'll say a pinwheel, right? So a pinwheel is, 3 jumps, right? 1, 2, 3 in a circle. When I have taught my dogs previous to this, they know what out means, my directionals, right? So they know what out means, or go, switch. They've already learned those directionals. I am now working this pinwheel because I want to start really proofing my dogs that they understand how to do this sequence independent of my handling position. So my handling position could be that I'm in the middle of the pinwheel, I'm on the outside of the pinwheel, I'm on the left side, I'm on the right side, all of that stuff. I want to build their confidence and proof their skill with that pinwheel, right? So as I am doing that, as I have this pinwheel set up, as I'm doing that and I'm working on my dog's skills, I start to add layers of distance or add layers of difficulty to proof their understanding of that pinwheel. So when I start to add distance to that pinwheel, because I'm going to start proofing that skill, when I start to do that, I am now testing, does my dog understand? Not only does my dog understand this exercise, but does my dog understand what out means, or go, or whatever directionals you're using in that pinwheel? Do they understand those directionals? Do they understand my body language? Do they understand how to perform a jump or a hoop, depending on what you're using? Do they know how to take off, how to land, how to change leads, how to extend, how to collect? You are testing all of those. And if there is a hole in one of those skills, if your dog doesn't fully understand how to collect to make that turn, or your dog doesn't fully understand what a switch means, or what a here means, or what your body language with said cue is, when you go to proof it or to test it by adding distance, by moving away from that pinwheel by 5 feet, or whatever, excuse me, that hole is going to start to show, because they don't fully understand how to do that skill. So that when you start to test it, you're going to start seeing those holes. So when I am testing something by adding that distance, it is information for me. If my dog is not doing that exercise with confidence, and we'll come back to what that looks like here in a minute, but if my dog is not doing that exercise with confidence, then I need to come back and go, okay, what is not registering with that dog? What about this skill? When I added this distance, when I test my training, or tested this behavior, what is happening that my dog doesn't have the confidence for this? My biggest thing when I'm working with my dogs is not, will my dogs do it? Right. And I talk about this a lot in my fluid motion group. I I want my dogs to perform this skill or do this sequence with a complete confidence and a complete understanding of it. And what that means for me is not so much, did my dog do the thing? How well did my dog do the thing? Right? A common thing that I say to my students quite a bit is, I don't care that your dog sent 50 feet to those weave poles. I care how well they sent 50 feet to those weave poles. Because if you're sending 50 feet to whatever, weave poles, a sequence, whatever, you're sending to that, but the entire send, your dog is checking with you. They're head checking. They're asking questions. Is this what you want? Are you sure? Is this where I'm going? If they're asking questions, then the fact that they did the thing, that I don't care about that. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. That doesn't matter. What matters to me is that they don't really have the confidence to go do it. They're doing it. And do they send that 50 feet? And do they enter those weave poles, weave them, and it looks great? Yes. But there's a hole there. If your dog is not doing it with confidence, if your dog is not fluent in that behavior, in that skill, that hole is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it will start to show itself, maybe not at the next trial, maybe not even at the next 4 trials, but it will show itself, whether that's in 6 months or whether that's in a year or 2 years. It will grow, right? So when I look at my training sessions, and if we go back to the example of the pinwheel, and I add some distance, let's say I've moved 5 feet, right? So I'm now proofing my dog's skills. And we have to remember, it's not just proofing my dog's skills on, will my dog do this circle of hoops or jumps? Will my dog do this circle? We're testing, do they understand my body language? Do they understand the verbal cues? Do they understand how to perform that piece of equipment? Are they looking for that piece of equipment? That we're testing a lot of things, not just will they do 3 jumps. And that's why my mindset, and I talk to my students all the time in the group, switch your mindset from are they doing or will they do this piece of equipment? Do they go over that jump? To how well did they go over that jump? Did they do it in extension and they're driving to that jump and not head checking and not kind of slowing up and looking back? Are they driving with confidence, or are they just doing the thing, right? And there's a big difference between those two. I see lots of dogs that do distance work that I see at trials. They are doing a thing, but they are not doing it with confidence. And those holes will start to show down the road, which is why I, again, firmly believe that distance is not a skill to teach. If you come at distance as a skill, I am teaching this as a skill, you're going to miss your dog asking questions because you're so focused on the skill. You're so focused on, I want to send my dog 50 feet to insert obstacle here, that you are so focused on that you lose sight of your dog head checking you. You lose sight of your dog asking a lot of questions because they don't have that confidence. You lose sight of that because you're mentally so focused on, they sent the 50 feet, they did the weave poles, I rewarded it, right? Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. I want my mindset, and what I hope to convey in like my group and stuff, is that you want your dog to do all the things confidently, and they believe in themselves, and you believe that they can do it. It's a whole circle. Because when you focus on distance is a method of proofing, distance is a tool I use to proof the skills I have already taught, your mindset changes from, look, my dog just did the weave poles, to my dog did do the weave poles, but he was slower, right? My dog has been doing the weave poles and he's been single footing and looking really, really great and at speed. But now my dog is maybe not single footing. Maybe he kind of entered really slow and he seems cautious. That is information. We want to use that information and go, okay, so what about this time was not good for the dog? What is not feeling good? What did I move too far too fast? Did I, add too much difficulty? What is happening? You know what I mean? And yeah, this, what Becky's just saying here, I think I can show it. Yeah. Confidence is part of the performance criteria and a foundation in of itself. Yes, very much so. When it comes to my training and kind of like a hierarchy of things, right? Confidence is always at the very top. Confidence and my dog understanding what they are being asked overthrows everything else. If I go out today and I say, you know what, I'm going to work on Wally's entrance into weave pulls, right? I want to work on some harder entries. So I go set that exercise up because I want to build confidence in his skill to do those harder entries, right? So I'm setting all that up. And I go out there and I set up this hard entry. And does he do it? Yes, but he is questioning me. He's not going as fast as he was. He seems unsure. Just because he did the exercise, that doesn't, I don't want, I mean, not that I don't want it, but that's not my priority. My priority is he does the exercise well. Okay. So I'm going to step back and go, okay, maybe have I added too much? Is this entry a little too hard for him? I've upped the game a little bit beyond, what he's quite ready for. Did I add too much distance? Am I moving too much? It's why I video every single training session so that I can look at it and say, okay, yeah, man, I not only added a hard entry, but I also added some distance, myself. I moved away and I'm layering this hoop and I added too many things at once, and he's questioning. But if my mindset is 100% on here's the exercise, dog did exercise, I'm probably not going to see that because my mind is going to be set on my dog did 1, 2, 3, 4, win. You know what I mean? As opposed to, yeah, my dog did 1, 2, 3, 4, but they did it very unsure. They did it with questions. And it's, so this is why, as I go through all my foundation stuff, as I go through all my training, my priority is always my dog's confidence and my dog's, my dog's confidence in doing it. And is there, as you're training your dog, whatever it is, it doesn't matter, agility, you're teaching them basic sit down, stay, that sort of stuff. There are always going to be, as they're learning something new, they're going to ask questions. You know what I mean? They're going to be like, okay, I'm learning this new thing. What exactly, is the criteria for it? They're going to ask questions. They're going to not be confident when you're first teaching a new thing. But when I've taught the new thing and I've gone through and I've been doing the foundation and I'm slowly, working through the steps, and I'm getting to that point of my dog should, have a very good understanding of these weave pulls or this contact criteria or that pinwheel. And I want to start proofing it. I want to start adding some difficulty to it. If I'm adding that difficulty right at the foundation stage, I want to teach my dog distance. So I'm teaching this new skill and I'm doing distance at the same time. In my opinion, you're asking to prove something that the dog doesn't quite understand. And I also think the mindset switch is huge for us as handlers. If we don't look at distance as I'm going to go set this because this specific exercise is what is going to give me chances cues or gambler's cues or whatever. Once I set this exercise and my dog does steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I now have distance. You know what I mean? And then the next big thing that we're going to talk about when it comes to how I work with distance and a big part of my foundation work is building value for hoops and for jumps. In general, with agility, we build pretty high value with contacts, right? Because, there's tons of treats and or toys involved. There's a lot of steps. It doesn't even matter what method you use. There's a lot of steps to teaching the contact criteria and then the piece of equipment itself. And so it inherently builds a lot of value. Same thing with weave pulls. Again, no matter what method you use, it's a high rate of reinforcement. Toys, treats, you're building value for that piece of equipment because of how long you spend training it, right? And tunnels are just tunnels, right? Their value for most dogs, there are some dogs that don't like tunnels, but for most dogs, tunnels are a pretty big value thing. Most people take their puppies, and that's like the first thing they want to do. That's a whole nother chat with me. It's not, I personally don't do that. Tunnels are like the last thing I teach. And I honestly have to build value for tunnels, and I do it the same way. It's what we're about to talk about. But those sort of pieces of equipment, you inherent, like they just kind of build value, right? Jumps and hoops, when you're teaching your dog to jump, you're teaching them the mechanics of jumping. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about looking for the piece of equipment itself. Same with hoops. We kind of just, here's a hoop, dog go through it, yay. And then we start kind of sequencing, right? I want to build value for both of those pieces of equipment, because both of those pieces of equipment are what make up the majority of agility courses. Jumps, and if you do NADAC, hoops. That's what you're going to see in regular and jumpers, obviously, and chances. Those are going to be your majority obstacle. I want my dog to look for them. I want those pieces of equipment to inherently have a ton of value. I want my dog to want to go do the thing, right? So I spend a lot of time teaching my dogs to have great value for jumps and hoops, because for me, if something happens, like in a trial, let's say I'm doing a run and I'm late, or maybe I've gotten lost, or something's just kind of happened. And so there's a disconnect between me and the dog. We're trying to get things together. I reward and encourage and love it if my dogs make a choice. If I'm late with my cue, or I'm in the wrong spot, something's happened and they don't quite know what to do, instead of running back to me with, where do we go next? I love watching my dogs go, you know what? Obviously she's having a day, and they make the next logical decision. They go, there's a discrimination here. She hasn't given me any information. I'm going to make a choice. And I reward my dogs for that choice because of building value for the equipment. I would rather that my dogs make a choice and make that independence in that choice, which is different. And again, probably a whole nother chat, which is different than your dog just having a heyday, right? You let them off the start line and they're just doing equipment with no connection to you. That's a whole different thing. I'm talking about you and your dog running, and you are late, or you've maybe gotten a little lost, or you haven't given your dog anything. And instead of them coming at you, they go, you know what? That jump looks like it's the next logical option. I'm going to take it. And sometimes they're wrong and it's not the next logical option. I will still always reward my dog for it. In a trial, they'll take that jump and I will tell them how good they are and try to keep that flow going if I can, to reward them for making that choice. So building value for jumps and hoops. So we're going to attempt to screen share. I'm very excited. So I can show you this diagram. We can talk a little bit about how we do it. So this, we'll see how this works. So this, I'm just going to move it, see what you guys can see. Okay. So this is just a little exercise, and I'm going to talk about the initial steps when I say I'm building value. And I have a video to go with this too, so you can see it in action. I will set my dog up. This is a dog. He's never seen a hoop, doesn't know a hoop or a jump, either one. And I want to introduce the obstacle. I'm not sequencing. I am not teaching them jumping mechanics. I am just introducing the obstacle. I will stand here. Oh, whoops, that's not who I want to grab. I will stand here with very neutral body language. Sometimes it looks like this. Sometimes it could look like this. Sometimes me and the dog are both kind of like this, right? I just want my dog to interact with this hoop. As soon as my dog so much as sniffs it, looks at it, goes, what is this thing? I am going to throw food over here where my cursor is. And here, it says 1, but pretend it says T for target or something, or food. I'm going to throw food over here, the direction that they are going. So if my dog sniffs and looks at the hoop and goes through this way, food is going to be on the other side, right? If my dog is coming over here, I'm going to throw food through the hoop. right? So I'm here, and whichever direction my dog goes through, food is happening on the other side. Now, with that being said, I am not asking my dog for a direction, right? Like I said, a lot of times, and in the video, you'll see we start like this. We could even start with me just a little further back, and the dog's kind of like, what are we doing? And it's standing there, right? I am not telling my dog, go to the hoop. I am not saying go. I'm not saying out. I'm giving zero directionals, right? I am just looking for my dog to interact with the hoop. And that's the big thing with this first step is you are not asking your dog to do it. You are standing there. I have a ready to work command, which basically tells my dogs we're going to begin shaping something or doing something so they know training has started. But I'm not saying go. You know what I mean? I'm not saying out. I'm not taking a step at it. And we're going to add this video. We're going to see, I'm getting, for those in my group who are watching, I hope you all are proud of me and how well I'm doing. I'm just going to throw it out there. We all know screen sharing sometimes is an issue with me. Okay, so I'm going to add this, and I think I can do it this way. I want you to be big. Oh, well, not like that. Hold on. Hold on. I promise we're getting there. This is different software. Okay, so I don't know why I can't be seen. And let me back this video up. So this is Wally. I'm going to pause it real quick. He's never seen this jump before. I have the bar at 8 inches. You guys are in the group know that I like to have the bar. We're not teaching jumping mechanics here, but what I don't want him doing is if the bar is on the ground, I don't want him whacking on these cups, right? I want there to be some sort of semblance of he needs to think a little bit about this, which is why in this video, he's, I think, let's see, he's probably about a year almost here, maybe a little under, but I don't want him learning to like whack it. I am sitting here. I am just letting him introduce himself to the jump. He went ahead and did it once, very excited about what is that. He's seen this with hoops. My body language is neutral. As you can see here, he's kind of like, what are we doing? And you're going to see me shift, right? So I shift a little to maybe help, and then I lean. Yes. I'm not telling him go do the jump. I'm not saying out. I'm not giving any directionals. I am merely sitting there and letting him offer to me to do that jump. Yes. Jimmy is driving and listening. Don't, oh, Lord. Good Lord. But anyway, this is the very beginning steps. I did this with hoops. You don't have to sit down. I am sitting just because, but you don't have to sit if you don't want to. I am just wanting him to interact with that jump, to look at that jump, and to offer it to me. He doesn't need to have a directional cue to do it. I don't want to give him a directional cue. I am just building value. I am just encouraging him to look for the piece of equipment. I'm going to go ahead and rewind the video so we can watch again while I'm talking. And like I said, this is like the very first step. And as you can see here, like when he asks a question, right, he's kind of like, what are we doing? I don't want to lure him. Now, if he got frustrated and didn't know what I do, different things, yes. But I am kind of leaning. I'm helping him a little bit without giving him a full-on like, oh, here, let me throw this food over this way. Like, I really want him to shape this and look for this and look where, you know, what are we looking for? I'm building value for that piece of equipment, right? And like I said, this is his very first time that he's seen this, that he got to see this little jump. And you're seeing him think. That's all him trying to think about what it is that I want him to do. Right? And we're just rewarding. Now, unfortunately, what I don't have is clips of the in-between. So this is like the beginning building value. What I have from here is clips where we're now sending bigger distances. But from that clip that I just showed you, you know, you're going to slowly back up and you're going to move positions. And these next clips showing Wally, you'll see where the positions are being moved. I've added distance, but I am doing this slowly because, again, our hierarchy here is building confidence. So I'm always looking at building confidence. So from that clip where I'm like right up next to the jump, my next step was I scooted back maybe 2 feet, right? And he's still offering me going to the jump. And now maybe I I'm still that 2 feet back, but now I'm going to go to the front of the jump, whichever side that may be for you, to the left or the right side of the jump, and then I go over to the other side, and then obviously switch wings completely, go to the other side of the jump. I move my position around that jump, but my main goal is him looking at said jump or hoop, and wanting to go do it, wanting to go drive to it, wanting to interact with it. And if at any time, as I'm adding this layer of distance and difficulty, and he starts to ask questions and he starts to be unsure, I'm going to stop, break it down, and go, okay, what have I moved too fast? What have I done? When I am proofing something, I am adding those layers, but it's one layer at a time, right? So like from that clip where I'm right next to the jump, the next thing I may do is move that 2 feet back. My exact position from that clip, but I'm going to move 2 feet back. Now I'm going to stay right there, and we're going to do the same thing. Now I'm going to go to the other side of the jump. Same thing. I'm going to do round the clock, but I'm that 2 feet, right? And then I'm going to add layers of difficulty by maybe, moving now over to this front side. I'm not going to add 2 feet and add difficulty, if that makes sense. You're adding one thing at a time. And that should go for anything when you're teaching agility. That should be kind of a universal way to proof, is you don't throw everything in at once. Right? You're adding one thing. And when your dog has that one thing, whether that's that 2 feet of distance, now you add in this layer of difficulty or whatever it may be. And so I'm going to bring up this question. It says, you give food as a reward for doing the jump. Are you also using your voice telling him he is a good boy? Yes, I am. And yeah, I can't get the audio to quite play. I'm still working on this. But yes, in that video, as soon as he is engaging with that jump, I'm saying, yes, good, and food, and yes, good, and food. I'm very verbal. So in the next videos, you will, if I can get the audio to play, you will hear me or Jimmy, depending on who's doing the exercise, saying like, yes, and then out comes the toy. So let me get the next one. I got to find it. There, that's the one I want. Okay. So let me see here. See if I can do this all over again. Oh, I keep hitting the wrong thing. I'm sorry, guys. No, that's still not it. We'll get it eventually. There we go. Okay, so let me back it up, because obviously, oh, Lord, stay in there. There. Okay, this is a short video, and so it keeps messing with me. All right, so this here is, we have moved on, obviously, from sitting right next to the jump. These are hoops. This is the same principle, jumps to hoops. Only thing with jumps is I'm not going to set them up at some of the angles you might see here with hoops, where there's going to be kind of weird slicing or anything like that. I do most of this work with hoops because it's easier for things like this. So obviously Wally has moved on. This happens to be Jimmy working this exercise while I film. And Jimmy is kind of sending him that way. He's releasing him and sending him. So we've moved with a little bit of language, a little bit of body language and reward, right? So we're doing, oh, good Lord. Oh, it's just going to loop. Okay. So what I'm looking for here is, again, he's looking for the hoop. We're rewarding right after it. I'm wanting him to drive towards that piece of equipment. I'm wanting him to look for it and drive towards it, right? And that's that goal. Let me bring up, I have a few different videos. I just have to remember which ones are which. It's all a thing. Here, we'll do this one. So in this particular video, we'll do that. Now in this one, we're long sending, and he is one to the next.
Good boy. Wait.
Now I'm going to stop him real quick, or pause this real quick, so we can talk about it, because this part of this is Wally makes a mistake. So Jimmy sends him, right? And now Wally is looking, and Jimmy is indicating the next hoop. And you see Wally, I can't quite stop it quick enough, but you see Wally, oh, no, can't stop it. Never mind. Look right there. He's looking to the next hoop, but he has a bit of a question. He's like, okay, am I going to that? I don't know. So he comes kind of back at Jimmy, and Jimmy asks him just holds his cue. He does the hoop. Jimmy asks him to wait, sends again, and rewards, right? He's not resetting. We're not like, hey, I'm just going to let this loop while I talk. There's no like, no, bad dog. It's just, yeah, you had a question and we let him fix it, right? And then resends again. And us, for just off topic, for a moving weight for our dogs is not, they like it. Like we teach it as a very much a positive, happy thing. So like Jimmy telling him to wait is not a correction. It's more of just, let me help you redirect, right? So when mistakes happen, when you're building value like this, or in my opinion, anything with sequencing and mistakes happen, my biggest thing here, especially what I want to kind of show in this video, is if you watch Wally, he sees that mistake, right? He sees that Jimmy's got his hand up. And does he go through the hoop the wrong way? Yes. I don't care. What I am looking for is the fact that he made that mistake. Here, I'm going to stop it. The loop is killing me now. Is he made that mistake, and Wally's very first reaction is to go look for something to do. That's why that video is important to me, because he is immediately going, okay, obviously something is a little funky. Let me look for something to do, not run back at the handle like we talked about earlier. And I'm going to bring that up. And Jimmy, as Jimmy is saying here, he says, I'm pretty sure that's when he was first doing 2 in a row. And that is correct. That video is the very first time Wally saw 2 hoops in a row. That's his first sequencing. So for me, that video is a huge win, because he is looking, something happened, he asked a question, and he looks for the next thing to do. That 100% is what I'm looking for. That's what I want. Okay. Now, so he asked that question, that mistake was made. Again, I don't care that he went through the hoop the wrong way. I care that he is driving to find something else to do. My next thing is, okay, why did he ask that question? And like Jimmy said, that was his very first attempt at doing 2 in a row. So that question is natural. So, in the very next rep, we move Jimmy up. So he's closer, right? Take away some of that distance. Let's move up. Let's help him get through those 2 hoops. And then we'll start proofing that again. Because as you see, Jimmy was quite a ways away. So obviously that was a little bit too much. So we move him up and we build confidence there. And then we start to proof the skill. But if just like that, if we're trying to proof a skill, but he doesn't have confidence in that skill, again, that's where that hole is going to come up, right? So let me grab the next video. So this is Wally. Obviously, these are taken, like there's time in between all of this sort of stuff of different training sessions.
Yeah.
This is Wally again. We're just doing 1 hoop, but this is what I call he's long sending to it.
Yeah.
Right?
Good boy.
When I talk about your dog driving and not looking back, that's the picture I'm looking for. So Jimmy is again giving him a ready to work, and he's sending him, like you can see his arm up. He is sending him out there. But what I am most excited about when I watch this video or when we have this training session is Wally is asking 0 questions. He is running to a hoop. He is running to a piece of equipment. That's what I'm looking for. And there's no head checking. There's no like, oh, hey, what are you doing? It is just going to a hoop. What that tells me right there by him driving and looking, towards that hoop is I feel that he now has confidence and he has the skill of value for that hoop, that he is looking for it. He is wanting to drive towards that hoop, right? And the last video I have is Trip, who's very good at this. Hang on, though. I got to get it to do its thing. There we go. And Trip will long send out like this, out to hoops. He looks for things all the time. He's fantastic at this. And Wally, is now getting to this point of like Trip, where he will long send, 60, 70 feet just to go do a hoop. And again, it's where, in my group, and what I tell students a lot is, if we watch Trip do this, he is sending with complete confidence, focus. He is looking at that hoop. He's driving to it. His stride is extended. He's not questioning what he should be doing. So this is what I talk about when I say it matters how they do it. So Trip is sending out to that hoop, and he looks good doing it, which tells me, okay, we have confidence. We have, fluency in that skill. We can now do the next thing, whatever that next step may be. Building value for your equipment like this, building value that your dog will go look for a hoop, will go look for a jump, and in my case, go look for a tunnel, is crucial. I really feel that it is a huge thing in your agility toolbox, in your foundations, to have a dog that will want to drive to a hoop. Because if you have taught, all these sequencing skills, you've been working all this distance work, but you're having to really, really work all those pieces of equipment, you're always going to be having to work every single jump and work every single hoop. And this doesn't mean that when Jimmy and I run, we're just like, we don't do anything. But I don't have to worry as much about, will my dog look forward off that dog walk contact to do that hoop? Because I've built so much value for them looking for the next piece of equipment, that when I give them their directional off that contact, or I give them their directional on the weave pulls, they're going to look for the piece of equipment. They're not just going to hear a directional and go with that, which sometimes happens with dogs, is that if they don't have a lot of value or commitment to want to go and do that hoop and to do that jump, they're relying on your directionals. And if your directional is not 100% clear, or if your directional maybe doesn't make sense for what that next piece of equipment is, or whatever, and they're relying on that directional, that's where you're going to have dogs that aren't driving. You see it in chances, and you'll see it in regular. The dog won't drive out to that top hoop of a pinwheel because they're not looking for it, because the directional took them out there, and maybe the handler's body language, but they're not actually looking for that piece of equipment. Excuse me. Along with the effects of building value like this, for your dog they're wanting to go look at piece of equipment, it also builds your commitment, that your dog, when they hear that go, they hear that out, whatever that directional is, and they go, yep, there's the hoop. That's what I'm looking for. That makes sense. I'm driving at it. Also gives you an incredible level of commitment, because now your dog is committed. They know that hoop, that jump, that tunnel, that's the next piece of equipment, which gives you then the opportunity to tell them where they're going next. I want all my directional cues for my dogs to come before they have taken that jump. When their 4 feet are still on the ground, they need to know where they're going next. So before my dog has taken this jump, I am telling them whatever that directional is, switch, so they know they need to collect in order to take this jump and change direction. They know that beforehand. And by building value, and then also by proofing your value, your built value for that hoop, proofing your skills with distance, it creates this little circle of life thing we got going on here, that without one, you don't have the other. You have to have this connected circle. Your dog needs to have commitment and value for the equipment. They need to have confidence in how to do the equipment. If they don't have confidence in how to mechanically jump, how to the mechanics of jumping, the takeoff, the landing, how to change leads, if they don't have confidence in that, their commitment to that jump is not going to be good, right? Because they don't have the confidence to even perform that piece of equipment. So if my dog doesn't have the confidence to perform that piece of equipment, I can't ask them to do 30 feet of distance if they don't have the confidence for it, right? So if one thing is missing, that's your whole, right? If you've got your circle and your dog doesn't understand the mechanics of jumping, or your dog doesn't have confidence to do a change of direction over a jump or to do a pinwheel, and you pop that out of that circle, right? There's your hole. And like I said, sometimes it doesn't make itself known right away. It's not at that one trial. It's a year from now. It's heck, it could be 2 years from now of your dog having that hole and always trying to cover it, right? You either as a handler, maybe without fully knowing, or your dog is always band-aiding that hole. They're always band-aiding it. And eventually they get tired of band-aiding the hole. And then all of a sudden this issue happens that for you came out of nowhere. But in reality, it's been happening back here in these foundations, right? So if you only take one thing out of this lecture, I think personally, and for those I work with, hopefully, changing your mindset of it is not just about the obstacles, and it's not just about the path to the obstacles. It's about the quality of them going to said obstacle. I want my dogs to drive. I want my dogs to have confidence. I want them to be like, yes, here we go, when I send them to whatever it is. If your dog is just sending to the thing and they're just doing the thing, and your mindset is, I did the thing, you might not notice, yes, they did the thing, but they didn't do it with confidence. They didn't do it with fluency, right? They're not doing it fully understanding the skill. They're getting by. And I don't want my dogs to get by. I want my dogs to know and to just drive out there and be confident. One of the best things, personally for me, I love it when my dogs make a mistake confidently. If my dogs, whether again that's due to me, my handling being a little off, or I'm late, or I'm in the wrong spot, or whatever, or even if maybe I've asked for something that maybe they don't fully understand, maybe whatever, and my dogs confidently make a choice and they go, you know what, I'm pretty sure that tunnel is the next obstacle, I'm going for it, I will reward it every day of the week, all the time. If I'm in a trial and something has gone askew or whatever, and my dogs with full confidence take off and do that jump and it's wrong, I will tell them how good they are, because I want my dogs to make choices. And are they sometimes wrong? Yes. But I would rather my dogs do that. They make that choice and try to make decisions on their own, as opposed to do a jump, look at me, okay, where are we going? Are you sure? Is this it? Are you really sure? Okay. Right? Because eventually that's going to build. I want them to just be bold and to do the things. Right? Right. Okay. So hopefully this has made sense. If you guys have any questions, please go ahead and throw them in, whether you're watching YouTube or Facebook. And I will answer them as best I can. Like I said, this is recorded, to throw up later. It will be available as a recording on my YouTube page, and I believe Facebook will leave it there as well if you want to go back and rewatch this, or if you're just joining now and need to catch up, it will be available. Jimmy says, like that Chances course in November, I said switch, he went straight into the tunnel, and it was comical where he's supposed to go. Yes, I wish I had that course to just jump up real quick. He was confident that's where he needed to go. Yes, and I can share that in the group also. I might go ahead and do that for those that are in the coaching group. That Chances course, for as far as what made sense to the dog and what was the next logical path and where they thought they should go, what Jimmy is talking about is 100% true. The Trip went to this tunnel, but he did it like, I have the video. And like I said, I'll go ahead and post that up in the coaching group so we can talk about it. He did it like he was 110% sure that's exactly where he needed to go, because the way he was supposed to go, honestly didn't make a lot of sense to him. It didn't work. It didn't make sense. And so he went to the tunnel. And I know on the video and with Jimmy as well, you can hear us both going, that's a good boy, because that's what made sense. And I would rather that my dog do that than ask questions, right? So that's my biggest takeaway with this is when it comes to trying to build distance, the best advice I can give, and it's the advice I give everybody in my group when we sit and go through it and we go through classes, change your mindset from I need to get my dog to do 30 feet of distance for this class or whatever your goals are, and change it to I need to build confidence. I need to build fluency. I need to proof my skill. My dog is not doing that pinwheel when I am 20 feet away. Why? Is it because is it jumping? Is it the mechanics of jumping? Is it the pinwheel itself? Is it where you are? Do they fully understand your body language and your verbal cues to do said pinwheel? When you add distance, you are proofing that skill. And in my opinion, if something's falling apart in that skill, it's not the distance's fault. It's something in here. We need to figure out what is here that we need to build confidence with. We need to build that fluency with. And then you use distance to proof. So again, my biggest advice is to change the mindset of distance is something I teach to distance is something I use to proof. It's how I test if I have taught this skill to my dog. They understand the skill. They have full confidence in whatever this may be. Right? Okay. Like I said, if you guys have any questions, throw them up, and then I will probably we'll end this chat here in a second. I will continue this. We're going to go a little bit in depth on this in the coaching group, where I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth with dogs who, quote unquote, like the Velcro dogs, or dogs who don't like distance, or dogs who have issues with adding that distance. And we're going to go a little kind of deep dive into the dog has the skills, that you've done the confidence, you've done all the homework, but when we add the distance, there's a rubber band, and it only goes so far. So in the Fluid Motion Coaching Group, I will be doing a lecture talking about Velcro dogs and things we can do to help that, and my opinions on some of that. So that's going to be kind of part 2 over in the group with that. So yay. And if you are watching this as a recording, again, go ahead and throw any questions into the comment section. And I should see them. I should still get notifications and all that, so I can answer as best as I can. And I will throw, once this recording is done, I will throw a link for the Fluid Motion Coaching Group into the comments. Everyone who is watching this, I will throw in a little promo code thing, and you guys can it'll offer you a free week in the coaching group. So you can join and kind of check it out and watch more of this and what we're talking about. And yeah, Priscilla, when will the coaching session be? Please remind me. I'm putting it up today. It's not the whole lecture, but I will put up the schedule for when our next chat is with part 2 of this. That will go up today, and it should go out to all the members so you guys can have a notification and all that sort of good stuff. All right. So if you guys have, looks like no other questions, we're good to go. Thank you all for coming. I plan on doing more of these kind of public live chats like this, and we'll do some video reviews and all sorts of cool stuff. Is all in the works for here in the next couple of months. So again, thank you guys all for coming. This is fantastic.